The Oshinoko manga has come to a conclusion, and with the conclusion of every single manga and light novel that I've ever had experience with, yes, obviously there's a group of people that don't like the ending. The cool thing that has come out of the conclusion of Oshinoko is, of course, a actual interview with Akasaka with his conclusion. Shueisha has finally released the last part of that interview, and so I went through and did a machine translation on it, cleaned stuff up, and want to dive into it because there's a lot of really cool stuff in here. I like getting into the brilliant mind of somebody like Akasaka, and with this particular interview, they get into a whole bunch of stuff. Yes, they even get into Oshinoko, which they are very vague around it. They don't actually get into spoilers, but they talk about the creative process of it itself. Even having Akasaka himself connecting himself to Akane, which I don't know if he's ever talked about that before, but sort of equating himself as Akane as a person, which is really, really interesting. Getting into the concepts of art, why he got away from actually doing art and just doing strictly writing, what kind of relief that has given him, which is an obvious case there. Getting into the fears of art and having to keep yourself modern into different trends and whatnot. A bunch of really cool stuff, and yes, even getting into his future as his writing. So with that said, let's just dive into it. I will put timestamps in the description below, so if you're looking to jump to a specific topic, you can definitely utilize those, but the whole thing is really interesting, so let's just dive into it. Kicking things off, he's asked, how do you feel now that approximate 4.5 serialization years has concluded? I want to relax for a while. I want to do things that are more rooted in everyday life. So you weren't able to live a peaceful life during the serialization period, right? Even so, it was much better than when I was serializing Kaguya-sama Love is War. I wasn't really living a human life back then, laughs. This time, because I was able to solely focus on the original work, I've gradually come to think that I can put more emphasis on my life. Now I'm thinking, maybe I should try farming. That was definitely something that he brought up previously, and during the conclusion of Kaguya-sama Love is War, there was some interviews, I think it was actually with Shueisha, where they were talking about the idea that he wanted to move solely to just writing, not doing art and writing at the same time, which was a lot of work for him. Now he can just focus on, I make out the scripts, I write out these different storyboards, I give them to the actual artist, and they take care of it. Now, there's a sad part of it in this interview at some point, getting the idea that he feels like he's inadequate. And it's like, no, dude, your art is good. Don't think that way. But there is a sense here where, him working with somebody like the actual artist for Oshinoko, where he's thinking, this person is actually a lot better at this than I am. Plus, again, this person is just drawing it out, so they can actually focus on making that art perfect. You mentioned in previous statements that you had a rough plot for Oshinoko from the beginning. Did the story progress the way that you envisioned it until the end? Yes, the ending progressed as I planned. So there's a confirmation there that, yes, this is the actual ending that he planned. And again, I'm not getting into exactly what that ending is and if people are upset or not, but it's just to kind of give people a sense here that this isn't something that he made up on the spot. This is how he planned it. However, with Oshinoko, I clearly distinguished between what I could decide from the beginning and what I wouldn't. I could have decided everything from the start, and I was that kind of author in the past, but I think I changed after drawing Kaguya-sama. Sometimes I would suddenly discover aspects of the character's inner self even I, the author, hadn't been aware of. I wanted to cherish and respect those parts of the character's personality. As a result, it became almost impossible for me to decide everything from start to finish. So, while the ending of Oshinoko was decided upon, I also believe that I created a manga where I cherish the characters as well. And I think that became my unique style. And that's a cool thing there, is to kind of, as he's progressing it, he's obviously going to see that this might be good for this character to kind of get into this aspect of them, which I do really appreciate. He's obviously not going to be able to plot out every single character from the start. So as he's progressing it, he can actually evolve the characters to fit with the story more, like he gets into in a minute with Memcho. The most prominent example would be Memcho, right? It's well known that she was originally intended to be a minor character, but thanks to Mengo's artwork, she became one of your favorites and was promoted to a main character. Were there any other instances of characters moved and changed in such a way? That's right, Aqua. Sorry, I immediately thought of the stupid English dub scene with Akane. That's right, Aqua. That's right, Aqua. That's right, Aqua. I think his personality became quite delicate. Initially, I felt that Aqua acted with feelings that were obvious to everyone, but then in the later part of the story, he became a character who didn't express his feelings outwardly and kept them a secret from readers. I wanted to end as an author whose next work people would want to read. That's interesting, and I'm curious, and I don't want to look into this too much. I'm curious if this is a case that is sort of prominent currently in the anime adaptation. Because yes, here with the second season, we've seen a drastic shift in Aqua's personality and the way that he expresses himself. So it makes me kind of wonder if that's going to get sealed back up. It kind of makes me feel that it's going to get sealed back up, but we'll see. We'll see. Is that because you realized the character had deeper emotions than you initially thought? I guess you could say that various events caused them to have various emotions. As a result, I felt the movement of their inner emotions became more complex. While it might be considered unkind to show this to the readers, it was also part of what I wanted to do with Oshinoko. Interesting. Over the past few years, there has been many conclusions to large-scale content like Evangelion, Attack on Titan, Jujutsu Kaisen, Oshinoko. Dude, Evangelion's never going to end. And neither is Attack on Titan. You lying to yourself. Oshinoko is one of those works where you're concerned about how to end such a big piece of content. I think there's been an increase in manga that end quickly. Perhaps it's because in an industry with fast consumption, there's a strong desire to end work on a high note. I think it's a good era for authors to be able to end their works when they want to and end the way they want. I absolutely agree. I don't like this idea of trying to churn it out and make it longer and longer and longer to the point where it gets 100 volumes. Just tell the story that you want to tell. For Oshinoko, I had a feeling that I wanted to continue the original work as long as the animation continued. Really? I also had the feeling that I wanted to continue the original work as long as the anime continued. That's a tease. That's surprising. Laugh. But Mengo Sensei is involved. We want to be authors whose next work people will want to read. So we have to make sure it's interesting until the very end. That's interesting. He's almost, and this is probably a little bit of a joke here, but kind of indicating the idea that if Mengo Sensei was not involved, the actual author or the actual artist, if they weren't involved, they may have wanted to continue it. But again, it kind of feels like a little bit of a joke there. In a previous interview, you mentioned that you felt hesitant about keeping Mengo Sensei tied down to Oshinoko for a long time. Of course, that's also a factor. Mengo Sensei can draw on their own. Oshinoko started because I humbly asked Mengo Sensei for their help. So in that sense, I felt that Oshinoko was a bit selfish of me. That's why I needed to end it while it was still an interesting work. I've always wanted to end it in a way that was satisfying for both the readers and Mengo Sensei. That's pretty cool. Oshinoko was adapted into an anime and, along with Yasobi's OP theme song, Idol, became a social phenomenon. How did you view such a phenomenon? Oshinoko was the first work that I started after declaring that I would stop drawing and focus on writing. Honestly, it set the bar incredibly high for me. So I feel like the hurdle for my next work has become extremely high, and I'm thinking, can I really do something like that? So maybe I should quietly grow crops and live my life. That is so freaking true. I cannot imagine how much pressure is being put upon Akasaka right now because something this successful. Kaguya-sama Love is War was very successful, but Oshinoko became like a wide audience more sensation. Like it grabbed a wider audience, an audience that you probably wouldn't have grabbed with something like Kaguya-sama Love is War. It's something that is more real. It's more like psychological. It's getting into industries and whatnot. People that are not normally into anime are getting into the series, and it grew huge. And yes, Yasobi's OP, the song itself, grabbed a broader audience's attention because that was topping charts, music charts. So yeah, that pressure put upon Akasaka probably really sucks right now. No, farming sounds nice, but we're looking forward to your next work. Yes, laughs. Has the societal phenomenon surrounding Oshinoko had any impact on the work itself? Of course, I think it was influenced. To begin with, the idea of Oshinoko started with a desire to create something with someone else. I actually included a scene in the work that symbolizes creating something with someone else, and the anime and the theme song are also part of that. I have a feeling that we're treating all different aspects of Oshinoko as one big group. In fact, one of the themes I might have drawn in Oshinoko was the act of creating something with the help of others. I think I might have been depicting the miscommunication within an industry of creating things that you can't do alone, like manga, anime, and stage plays, as well as the communication between idols and fans in the industry. This is the part that I really want to get back to. The idol stuff kind of takes a backseat. But yes, this is the stuff that I love about. I've loved Oshinoko. A lot of it has to do with, yes, the characters are amazing. But yes, it's a lot to do with looking into the industry, the darker side of the industry, but also getting that idea of how things come together. Like every single season of the anime that comes out says a message, and it's sadly that a lot of people miss that message. Like with the first season, a lot of that was a message about the idea of that disconnection between like these reality TV stars, their mistakes, and people just berating them online, and the effects that has on a human being, forgetting that it's a human being behind that screen. Getting the second season, a lot of it has to do with like script writers and the adaptations of the actual source material. A lot of that stuff is really deep stuff that shows that bigger picture of how this stuff is created and all these moving parts that come together. He does a great job of that because, again, he's in it. He's seen it all. Does the origin of a desire to create something with someone else come from your experience creating Kaguya-sama Love is War? I think it's because I grew up a little through Kaguya-sama. When a work becomes popular, it's not just the manga itself that spreads, right? It spreads through media, mixes, advertisements, and the work that publishing companies does. I realize that there are limits to what I can do alone and realize the importance of working with people. I think that's a big part of it. Mengo Yokoyari sensei was the one who worked closest to you on Oshinoko. Have you talked with Mengo sensei about Oshinoko's phenomenon? Whenever we met in person, we would talk about that kind of thing. Of course, I think Mengo sensei and I felt differently about the work becoming a hit. However, when a work becomes a hit, you feel both happy and scared. And I think we mainly talked about the scared part. So true. I mean, this even for me personally kind of happens whenever something kind of a video gets a little more popular and you're like, oh crap, now I feel like you need to do something just as good as that. That feeling that you have a broader audience, it starts to get bigger. Even though originally when Oshinoko first came out, a lot of people are reading it. But it's really the aspect of it becoming larger and larger and getting a massive hit that it feels like so many eyes are upon you. Not just your original fans, but so many more eyes are upon you. And especially for this artist that's not used to this kind of attention, because Akasaka has had attention for Kaguya-sama Love is War, not as much as possibly from Oshinoko, because I think Oshinoko probably, again, got a broader audience, but it's still there's a fear behind it. You're happy it's successful, but at the same time, you're scared of the popularity and delivering to that popularity. Of course, there are many happy things, but I think both Mengo sensei and I share a sentiment that the weight of responsibility has become even heavier. Yes. Which sucks. And I do believe that might be possibly why people are outraged. Again, I'm not looking into it, because that can sometimes happen where people believe that because it got popular, they changed the story. Again, I don't know, but still. One of the things that left a strong impression on me, Oshinoko, is how the work repeatedly depicts the phenomenon of online flame wars on social media. I think a big influence of that is my consciousness decision to make Oshinoko a Reiwa period entertainment industry story, which is basically modern day story. Because there has been several manga works about the entertainment industry in the past, I deliberately incorporated contemporary elements into the story to differentiate it. I think my own personal experience also played a part into it. You see, as a manga artist, the only opportunities I have to interact directly with my fans are at signing events and conventions. Because of that, my image of fans tends to lean towards people who are on social media. And I think the same for idols today who manage their own social media accounts, including YouTubers and many other active people of the modern era. I think they also see their fans as existing within social media. That's why I decided to delve deeper into the portrayal of social media networks in my work. And again, that's a very interesting kind of perspective there. And again, that was something I seen, especially with Akane's story in the first season, is just how sadly real that is. Stuff that I personally, even with as small as my channel is, have experienced. You do something wrong and just people, nasty, just absolutely nasty people. And I've seen it through other people as well, other content creators, and just the overreaction that some people have on social media. It's like, dude, it's not that big of a deal. Why are you saying that to somebody? A human being. Once again, a human being. Oshinoko was the first work you created by declaring yourself an original author. Could you tell me what you were able to achieve working with Mengo sensei? I firmly believe that popularity of Oshinoko among young people is undoubtedly thanks to Mengo sensei. Mengo sensei's artwork is the ultimate example of something I could never achieve on my own. So, Oshinoko is a work that allowed me to fulfill my desire of creating something with someone else. It truly made me realize significant in collaborating with others. Really cool. And again, I definitely agree. Like when Oshinoko, at least when the adaptation was first announced, like the attention it actually got just from the actual artwork itself was huge. Like that initial shot of Ai with, yes, the sparkly eyes, like it just grabs your attention. Like the visual art of it just grabbed people's attention. So it makes perfect sense. How was it actually working with different person for the storyboards and artwork? Mengo sensei and I have similar tastes, but we're not the same person. So those different parts we didn't quite sync up. But I intentionally drew the storyboards in a way that would make difference a part of the charm. So I found it very easy to work on. and I learned a lot from her. For example, how to use subtle visual cues and how to create specific atmosphere and pacing in a manga. I think that manga artists who created a number of works end up having a similar set of techniques and tricks, and what sets them apart is how they choose to use those tools. Very interesting. In that sense, working with Mengo Sensei, I was often surprised by her choice of, oh, so you would use that technique at this moment, and was really influenced by that. Very cool to have somebody kind of be inspired by somebody else. And again, it's kind of one of those things where you put Akasaka up on this pedestal, and you have somebody like Mengo, which, for those who don't know, has done previous works like Scum's Wish. Somebody like that able to come in and show a different perspective of showing things. Because I would probably say that, with something like Kaguya-sama Love is War, definitely much more comedy focused with that romance in as well. Whereas, yes, Scum's Wish is more getting into drama and romance and that kind of stuff. Now the final chapter is out, and we have a complete story. What do you think Oshinoko has become? That's exactly what I've been thinking about recently. What was Oshinoko all about? Question mark. I don't know if that's a dodging the ending thing there. It's something that can be only considered now that it is ended. From the beginning, I had a clear idea of the significance of Oshinoko and what I wanted to express through this work. It's discommunication. In other words, what does it mean to interact with others? Very interesting. And I for sure kind of see that in a lot of ways. Because, from the very beginning, it's literally about talking about how they lie to their fans and how their fans want that lie. And that gets right into the idea of how horrible Aqua is at communicating his own feelings. And it gets into, yes, Akane and her feelings and how she expresses it, how people express and hate against her, and getting into everybody has communication problems. They're people with really complicated feelings that they don't want to surface. And a lot of it has to do with just the inability, the lack of wanting people to see their dirty side. Really is a lot of it. And yes, getting into the industry stuff that it gets into is a lot to do with communication and how these companies don't, and different individuals with the entire working machine don't communicate properly, and the problems that it causes. Especially in the relationship between idols and fans depicted in Oshinoko, I think there is a fundamentally distorted aspect that goes against nature. How can we approach such difficult and distorted things with a healthy mind? I came to realize that depicting this was, in essence, depicting communication. In addition, as an author, I really hope that people who read this can take something back from the real world and use it as reference. In that sense, Kaguya-sama Love is War also depicted the same thing. Again, I hope that it gets more into it, but I definitely seen a lot of this in the earlier segments of the first season, and how, again, there's this lie, and what happens when that lie comes to light. What happens to I when that lie comes to light? It's nasty, and it's kind of similar to something I've seen in other works, like Satoshi Kon's works. Perfect Blue definitely depicts that very, very brutally real and honest. That's right, Kaguya-sama explicitly showed discommunication from the beginning, albeit in a humorous way. People who cannot successfully build relationships with others in communication. This is something I've always wanted to consistently draw. So I think ultimately it comes down to that. Whether it's the communication within the industry depicted in Oshinoko, or the discommunication between fans and idols, is a work with a wish that I drew with the hope of people like this would gradually find better ways to approach each other. I think that's what Oshinoko is. Again, the lie, and the lie that people actually accept because they want to be lied to. I think that's what he's talking about there, but we'll see. I think that's truly a testament to your style. But was there any particular trigger that led you to tackle the theme of human communication so directly? I'm not very good at communicating with people, but people around me often tell me that I'm good at communicating. Yes, I don't feel any discomfort at all in talking to you. You see, ever since high school, I've been doing things similar to what Kuroko Akane, one of the main characters of Oshinoko, did. This is really cool, and it makes it it's like one of those things where once you realize it's like, yeah, suddenly a lot of things make sense, because there is a lot of really good presentation of psychology in the series, and so this kind of makes everything kind of click for me. Really? I dabbled in psychology and studied people's behavioral patterns. When I read this part, I immediately shot this over to psychologists. I'm like, suddenly everything makes sense. I figured you'd like to know about this. So Akane also used profiling through psychology and the like in her acting. Through those experiences, I learned that people feel uncomfortable or unpleasant in these kind of situations, and it saved my life. Very, very cool. So I wanted to give back to readers the experience I gained. I thought if there is a way here that made my life a little easier, I hope that it can help others who are struggling in the same way. Very interesting, because again, that was definitely an Akane story and how she kind of navigated her feelings. When she goes into the industry and she gets shot down by the person that she absolutely adores, she immediately goes, why are they going through this? I want to learn more. She didn't go through, oh my gosh, my idol is so mean and now everything is ruined. No, they went, I want to figure out why she did that. I want to know what she's hurting. She's obviously hurting. I want to know why. It was such a cool little segment. And it's cool to see again that apparently Akasaka has kind of done similar things here. Really cool. So basically Akane is, yes, other than the fact that she's who she is and she's female and she's an actress, has been sort of molded from Akasaka himself. Personal experiences. Although it takes the form of manga, it feels like you're relaying a baton that you once received. So in my mind, I'm a good person when I'm drawing manga. I have the intention of drawing with good intentions. Of course, it might be annoying, but I want to draw it because I want to. For example, by depicting the mechanisms of the entertainment industry, I would be happy if people think it's so tough. Maybe I should be a little more considerate. In my mind, the important thing is after reading the manga, so I hope that can make the actions of those who read it a little better, even if it's just a little bit. I hope it becomes a manga that raises the overall happiness of this world. So cool. And again, this again goes right back, I keep bringing it up, everything with Akane and that idea of how people get so vicious about this stuff. And again, going in even to the second season, I remember we had this whole massive hubbub that was coming up about scriptwriters. And I'm like, literally, we just had an episode of Oshinoko where they talked about the struggles of scriptwriters. And yet you people still lambast these people with this hate that shouldn't be there. Literally, Akasaka is saying, look at us. We're human. This is what we're struggling with. And this is why it's really complicated. And it's very difficult. The scriptwriter in the show, in the story, in the manga is literally like, whenever a show turns out amazing, an anime, an adaptation turns out amazing, everybody praises the original creator. But whenever it's bad, they yell at the scriptwriter. You messed it up. It's a thankless job, but somebody has to do it. Somebody has to take it from this form and make it work for this. And with that particular case, he's having to work with the equipment and how the actual stage play itself functions and how they have to move materials around and how they have to have these waiting periods between each segment. They have to make that flow work out. It's showing that side of the industry and saying, look at how hard they worked. It's so cool. It's truly a work filled with wishes. Yes, that's right. Of course, some people might feel uncomfortable with the depiction of the inside of the idol industry. There's very little with the idol industry that's not uncomfortable to get into because it's in how it functions. It exploits people's desires for something they can't touch and that they themselves can't have relationships. It's kind of bad. But if by depicting the current idols want to say but can't, even a little bit of those people can be saved, then I think it's okay to be a little uncomfortable. Very interesting. Very interesting. Showing that they are, once again, showing that the people that you see behind the screen or on the stage are people. These are actual human beings. And that's very interesting. The idea he's saying what current idols want to say but can't. And again, it gets into the simplicity of that aspect of I want to have relationships. I want to have somebody in my life. I want a special somebody. I have to lie all the time. I have to be something I'm not. I have to always keep on a smile. I always have to be cheerful. I always have to give them what they want. They always want me to be happy. They always want me to be smiling, and I'm hurting inside. Lastly, may I ask you about your future plans, such as the kind of work that you want to do, or the works that you want to draw? Well, I'm really tired, so I want to take a break for now. Poor guy, dude. Take a break. Akasaka, please take a break, dude. Right, laughs. But even though I want to take a break, there are still works that I really want to draw. Dude, take a... Forever working. It's a forever working mindset. Always the next thing. Always the next thing. Always the next thing. There's still moments when an idea suddenly pops in. I think, hey, this is a great idea. I really love the title of Mengo Sensei's work, Kuzo no Honkai, which is Scum's Wish. And I've always wanted to create a work with a title like that. He wants a title like Scum's Wish? Recently, I came up with a good title. It's really a work that just started with a title, but I want to draw a manga with it. But I'm also working on the other storyboards that I've prepared. Yeah, and I guess that's probably that new fantasy one, which he's only really creating the concept for it. It was announced pretty much the same time this interview came out that, yes, there's the next work they're working on It's already set up. I don't think they have an active title for it yet, but it's supposed to be like a fairy tale with like a prince and a princess their fates are intertwined, whatever. Very early stuff here. We don't have really much information to go with, but I don't know because it says that they said that it's basically he's doing the concepts for it and somebody else is doing the actual story composition. So I'm not exactly sure how much he's going to be involved with that, but obviously he has other works going. Oh, I'm really curious about that. And since I'm going to continue the work as an original author, I strongly feel that I want to create works that match the individuality of the artists who draw them. Now, this is very interesting because he's basically implying the idea that he wants to draw a manga. He's specifically saying draw a manga. I have an idea of a title and I want to draw a manga. So that kind of makes me believe that he wants to maybe do a one-shot or something like that. Maybe something that's very simple, very quickly he can go through, or maybe he looks to actually get back into drawing a full-on manga series. We'll see. During the serialization of Oshinoko, and after the completion of Kaguya-sama Love is War, you announced in 2022 that you retired as a manga artist and focused on manga original author. This declaration made a big splash. Can you tell us more about this decision? This is where it gets very interesting and very kind of unsettling. Not unsettling, but kind of a little bit sad in how the mind works, or at least what's going through the mind of a manga artist and what they have to constantly be dealing with. I really wanted to create a lot of works. I'm the type who, while spending time with drawing, thinks, I want to draw storyboards. And yes, that makes sense in the idea that instead of going through the manga and drawing every single panel, putting all the detail and everything into it, drawing storyboards instead would be more of an idea that he draws the basic concept of what's in the scene. Very, very, very light sketches in a lot of cases, just to show where the characters are positioned in the frame, maybe an expression, the direction they're expressing to, that kind of stuff. Very simple layout. And then the actual artist, in the case of the Oshinoko, Mengo, would actually take it and actually draw it fully, put all the detail into it, color if necessary, whatnot. While there are many manga that separate the original story and the artwork, your declaration not to draw had a big impact. Time is a primary issue, but there are many people who are better at drawing than me. I might draw if I really want to, but I feel like drawing can just be a hobby now. That's so sad. And again, if it's his decision, like if it's not something that he's filling himself in, and that's actually probably a better thing. And I think he mentioned that in the previous interview, is the idea that he still wants to draw as a hobby, but his primary focus for his work, he wants to tell the stories. I just want to tell stories. I'll draw on the side. If I want to scribble something on a napkin, that's where I'm going to have fun at. So that's cool. Did you get any reaction from your peers? As fellow manga artists, when they asked me why I said that, I would just say, because I don't want to draw. And that would be the end of it. Laughs. Professionals don't talk much amongst themselves. But in that sense, I might not understand the feelings of people who want to draw themselves. My start as a manga artist was to create stories. That's the key thing there. So it's not really that he's giving it up. It's more of the idea that like I got that position where I can finally go, here, just take this story and make it into something. On the contrary, I like to ask other artists, if you were told that you could become a manga original author, would you do it? Very interesting. Everybody's coming to him and saying, dude, why'd you give up on, your art? Why did you give up on that? I would probably want to ask them, do you really want to draw that stuff? Or do you just want to tell stories? I just want to tell stories. It's cool. Certainly that answer would be interesting. I think the reason my declaration was widely reported is that there are many other people in the manga industry who love to draw. I think those people probably want to satisfy both the desire to create stories and the desire to draw at the same time. But I'm the type who thinks this character's cute when I'm drawing storyboards. I see. It was a message to my editor at Shueisha, wasn't it? Like, I won't draw anymore. Laughs. Let's work together if you're okay with that. Very interesting. It's been 2 years since you made that declaration. Do you think it's a good decision? I think it's a good decision. It was easier for me, my editor, and the industry. It's obvious that they wouldn't give me illustrations and work anymore. They're like, you think I'm sick of them? Right. And it's much easier to focus solely on a story. Drawing requires constant updates. You have to study, and you have to get new equipment. This is where it kind of gets a little bit sad, honestly. The scariest thing is when the world's trends change towards new art styles. This is so true. This is so freaking true. Or when better artists keep appearing. Keeping up with that is a huge burden and costs a lot. This is something that I don't think I really ever see them talk about. I mean, I see it in storytelling every now and then, but this is kind of a sad reality. I mean, it happened here recently with the artist behind Slayers. When they released this recent book, everybody claimed that it was AI. And whether or not you believe it was AI or not, the point there was their response to it was, I'm sorry, I'm trying a new style. And I'm sorry that it wasn't to your guys' expectations and that you felt that it was AI. But I'm trying to get away from this because nobody wants this anymore. The original style of Slayers, which, yes, at this point is extremely dated art from like the 80s and 90s, I'm trying to do something more modern because art itself, the trends have changed to make characters look like this. Their proportions, their face, their eyes have to be like this now because that's what everybody wants. And I need to sell this book. I went with that style. I tried something new and people didn't accept it. It was that trying to evolve your art. It's a sad reality that people don't want this old style anymore. I love it. I love the idea of kind of modernizing those older styles, like with Ranma, how they modernized that. Usho and Tora, when they modernized that one. Urusei Yatsura, they modernized that one. I like that dip in the old style as well. As an original author, you still need to update, but you thought it would be more natural for you to update your writing skills rather than your drawing skills. That's right. I find it more fun, and I want to do it that way. I felt like if I keep drawing, I would gradually stop updating. So I want to team up with someone who could say, I'm 100% dedicated to drawing. Very interesting. Again, it's just deviating. I'll focus on the story. You focus on making that stuff look really good. Rather than one person having to worry about both of the things at the same time. It's a lot of work. Mangakas put a lot of work into stuff. Yes, a lot of them have assistants that will do backgrounds and whatnot and all that kind of stuff. But to do so much on your own, again, having to turn this stuff out on a weekly basis in some cases, maybe monthly sometimes, that's a lot of work. And again, keeping up on your style and doing better and getting better and drawing better. Of course, I can't ask someone to draw a manga unless they are not only good at drawing, but also good at making manga. Incidentally, you're originally aiming to be an original author, and you reluctantly started drawing Kaguya-sama yourself. Honestly, I thought, I probably can't draw manga. But to become an original author, I had to go through the steps of becoming a manga artist. After all, it's impossible for someone with no experience to say, I'm an original author, please sign me up for a really good artist. Sadly true. Sadly true. Unless you do like a web publishing or whatnot of your story and eventually it gets picked up by a publisher and the publisher makes a manga adaptation of it. And that makes sense. The industry's not going to immediately go, oh, you want to draw too? Okay, we'll get you an author too. Oh, you want an author? Okay, hey, you over here, do this. It's not like everybody that walks that front door is just suddenly going to get assigned to somebody, especially a good artist. That's true. So after serializing a few works and getting some experience, I went to Shueisha and said, I want to be an original author this time, but I couldn't. That's how Kaguya-sama began. Oof. It's amazing that it became a huge hit, but it was through Kaguya-sama that you were able to become an original author. That's right. I think Oshinoko wouldn't have turned out this way without Kaguya-sama, so I don't regret drawing it myself, and I don't have a resentment towards my editor. I'm glad I was able to do it. I was so uncertain whether I could do it, so being able to do it was a huge experience for me. You mentioned updates earlier, but I think input is a very important factor for writers. What genre have you input most of your life? The internet. There's a huge difference between the overall opinions of men and women, isn't there? So I wanted to see both perspectives, and I often looked at sites where women's honest opinions were gathered. I think that input was a big part of why I was able to draw Kaguya-sama with a female protagonist like Kaguya. Opinions of women that couldn't be seen when interacting face-to-face were exposed through the internet. That's why I think I was able to draw the work. Do he snoop in websites with girls talking just so he could get an idea of how these girls talking? Kind of is true. There's times where I think that's kind of true based on at least what I've watched of the anime. I mentioned earlier that I was able to live more comfortably by acting like Akane, and this might be the best example of that. Until then, I couldn't imagine what other people were thinking, but from the information written on the internet, I was able to build a hypothesis like, maybe humans are like this, and that became a manga. Very interesting. I mean, I kind of want to know more about this. Like, I want to almost pick his brain more on this because I kind of wonder if that's an aspect of the inner turmoil that Kaguya is always going through. Like, she literally has, like, what was it, 3 or 4 personalities within her head, and they all have, like, these different moves. There's the cool one, there's a cold one, there's a chippery one. That's interesting. That's interesting. It's very surprising that your biggest input was the internet, communication on it, and self-disclosure. When I create characters, I value how their personalities were formed and how they become who they are. In that sense, I really like drawing past episodes that can explain those secrets that only exist within myself. You're currently 36 years old, and you've finished 2 popular series. I would like to hear about your specific work methods that led you to your success. Do you have any work routines? I don't have routines. I just do it when I'm in a hurry. Like a true mangaka. That's like saying deadlines are inspirational. Also, I'm forgetful and have trouble concentrating, but I think it's an important task to properly investigate my own characteristics and find out how people in similar situations deal with them. Through that, I was able to learn useless to try hard equals give up, and what can be dealt with. I wonder if this is a bad translation right here. This sounds a little bit off. Useless to try hard equals give up. It's you're not going to make it, just give up. Deal with it. Interesting. Analysis and hypothesis are useful here as well. That's right, especially I often take physical measures. Like, if I can't work at home, I'll go out. Because if I physically go to a place where there are no games, I won't play games. I often visit Shueisha, and that's also one of the measures. I think it's okay to rely on someone, but I try to physically resolve my own characteristics as much as possible. Very cool. And again, this goes back into what he was saying that he made Oshinoko about, is the idea of relying on others. Doing as a group effort. The influence of physical environments is strong. Accepting, understanding, and dealing with my own negative aspects head on. For me, that's something I've been able to do since I turned 35. I think the harshness of weekly serialization is a big problem in the manga environment. But are there any health measurements that Akasaka is taking? I can't stay up all night physically anymore. Ouch. I also been going to bed earlier. But as Mizuki said, if you sleep, you won't die early. So, honestly, try to sleep. I wish I could. I stay up way too much. It's a good thing that you can't stay up all night like you did when you were in your 20s. Yes, it is. I also think quitting energy drinks is a big change. I did that a long time ago. It's a good thing. But yes, I'm a coffee drinker. I still drink coffee, but I realize that consuming too much sugar is bad. So, now I like water. Just don't have sugar in your coffee. Are you just clumping sugar in it? There's definitely a big difference between energy drinks and water. There's also a physical solution, but I buy cases of water and unflavored carbonized water and have my housekeeping service put them in the fridge. Yes, hiring housekeeping service is a big deal too. I can't clean, so I've given to someone else to do it. Hey, if you ain't got the time, you might as well. I switched to thinking, I'll work hard to earn money to pay housekeeping service. It's been real nice to have all my problems I've been dealing with physically solved. Work so that somebody else does it for you. Knowing your own characteristics and dealing with them physically. This seems like a powerful advice for anyone. I hope so. In the past, I used to say, I'll do it properly, but now I could say, I can't properly. When I'm late, instead of saying, I'll be there in 5 minutes and taking 10 minutes, I say, I will take 10 minutes at the beginning and arrive in 5 minutes. Yes, set the expectations. That's important. Not trying to put errors or anything. I can do it is a sign of being an adult, I think. In the end, it doesn't make anyone unhappy. However, I still say things like, don't worry, I'll finish it tonight when it comes to manuscripts. Never change, apparently. Finally, 36 years old now. Is there anything you want to do by the time you're 40? I want to do weight training. I tried readjusting several times in the past, but I've always failed to continue, so I want to succeed. I'm so disappointed in myself for my lack of self-control. If I can succeed in weight training, I think it would be a moment when my characteristics change. I aspire to be that kind of person. And that is it. What a cool interview. What an actually really cool interview. I think this is like more so kind of seeing into the mind of Akasaka and the idea of how they feel about their art, how they felt like they couldn't keep up with art, how they felt like they weren't adequate to do art. I think that's the kind of the cool insight. Again, what I had a perspective of previously was Akasaka wanted to focus on storytelling because they like to tell stories more. I didn't know it was so much an idea that they felt inadequate to do art itself. Like, this is something that I can't keep up with, and it's not something that I really want to do. I want to do this. It's really kind of an idea of finally getting into the where he wants to be. This is where I want to be. And again, I got a sense for that, but this is kind of cementing it. But yeah, additionally kind of seeing, I think the stuff around Akane is super interesting. It's like literally that character is him in a way. It's his experiences and how he kind of learned how to see what makes people tick for the sake of communication. Really cool stuff. Like, so much cool info in here that I really loved. But I hope you guys enjoyed this so you get a little insight into Akasaka. But if you did, hit the like button down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And until next time, y'all take care.